So what's going on? This month I don't have a guest speaker. I wanted to address what was going on. Instead, I brought Truffle with me for some, excitement for our video this month. And I basically just wanted to sort of talk about what's happening in the market because change is afoot. We went from a very strong seller's market that we've seen for, largely the last 17 plus years in Toronto real estate. What we've experienced, I think, is intentional. The Ford government has tried to directly lower prices by increasing interest rates, and that change is already present. I don't think that we've seen a humongous change in prices to date, but that is, I think, potentially afoot. So it's not necessarily even the uh, bump in affordability. It's also largely what happens as a result of that, which is the stress test, which basically is another 2 percentage points higher, which you can imagine just decreases affordability, then therefore even more. So uh, that happened, and then yesterday on the 14th, we also saw that the Bank of Canada increased the prime rate from early in the year 0.25, and then it was put up to 0.5. They the change went into effect yesterday to put it to a full point, which is half a percent point higher than where it was, which I think is a pretty substantial amount. And we're going to see, both the fixed and variable rates increase, and that's just really where the market is right now. So I talked about this balanced market. The balanced market, I'd say, is somewhat elusive. Supply still is a very big issue, but of course, it's really just a factor now of where prices are at. um, Keeping in mind that our demand for housing is still 1.5 million new construction homes that will be needed to be added to our inventory as a guideline that's been set for a 10-year horizon. To get to that rate would be double the current pace in terms of new construction that's being put through. So that's a pretty darn big change. And again, part of that plan that was put through by the government directly addressed that. And they're trying to remove some of the red tape that we see right now that's making it harder for people to build or get greater density. We've addressed some of those things like laneway houses, garden suites, although from my understanding, garden suites have sort of um, taken a little bit of a step backwards temporarily. I'm not entirely sure what's happened there. Um, and the last thing that happened from the government was that they also increased the foreign buyers tax. So foreign buyers tax was already set at 15%. That was raised to 20%. But I think more importantly, there were three pretty well-known loopholes, so to speak, in terms of getting your money back for foreign buyers. Those were that you could work for a year, study for 2 years, or get your PR within a 4-year span. And they've removed the first two and made it only so that you will get your foreign buyers tax given back to you if you receive that PR within a 4-year span of when you purchase the property. So no longer at all related to working or studying here, which I think could have a very big effect. The one place that pardon me, I just wanted to sort of say that in Toronto, it's about 4% of our buyers pool that's made up by foreign investment. And that isn't a humongous amount. I mean, it's certainly a piece of it. The area that isn't measured is the pre-construction. And pre-construction, I think, is something that is a very interesting thing to be watching because you've got people largely that were purchasing property at a price per square foot that didn't exist. So you're basically buying at tomorrow's prices today. And what you ended up having is, I guess in this case, properties that are going to be coming into market that never reached those prices per square foot. So if you have banks appraising them lower than the price that they bought them for, and you have people that are needing to take out mortgages now at a far higher interest rate than when they would have purchased it some uh, 2 to 7 years ago, whatever those numbers would look like. That's a pretty substantive amount. And I also wanted to say where we were at the beginning of the pandemic to where we are today, $1 million mortgage that I had run the numbers on with a client in a sort of hypothetical, put that $1 million worth of borrowing at an additional $1,269. So to be in excess of $1,200 a month in after tax dollars definitely hurts because um, the Toronto Real Estate Board reported that people apparently are spending 49.7% of their income towards their house. Um, Meaning property taxes, insurance, in condo cases, maintenance, and their mortgage. So that's a very, very substantial amount of your money to be spending on that. And even in the 80s, it was stated that it was a 35% of your income that was being spent, and that was at a, of course, substantive 14 or whatever greater percent that somebody was paying in interest at the time. Um, so definitely some interesting changes there, but this is how it works, and I wanted to basically address the elephant in the room. So um, some changes afoot, though, would be that lumber has actually slid in terms of prices. And that's a wonderful thing, but we've seen this as a result of borrowing cost increasing because people are choosing not to take on those home renovations because the cost is just prohibitive. And now the cost of construction is I've heard estimates that it's about two-thirds greater than it was in a pre-pandemic environment, and that's as a result of shortages and lower supplies and time it takes and just the cost of doing business, right? I mean, if people were cashing checks to sit at home, and there's just been tremendous inflation, people are expecting that pay raise, and trades are charging more. I mean, prices are just simply up. So it's definitely a bit of a wait and see moment. What am I telling clients to do? The interesting thing right now, I would say, is that the buyers, I think, are feeling things very differently from how it's been for a long time. I've sold some properties in this past month that people, were putting in conditions for sales. I mean, it's been so long since I've done that and truly, felt like you've negotiated on those sorts of terms. It's been a very interesting switch, and as I said, it's a bit more balanced because you've got people that are now taking conditions for financing with that happening. I mean, you've got conditions on home inspection because if something goes wrong, you need to make sure that you've also got money, sitting on the sidelines for those things. Same thing too, if it was a condo building where you have status certificates. So what we've seen definitely has been, as I said, a change from a strong seller's market over this side, and here's where a buyer's favorite market is. I'd say that we're still leaning a little bit over here, a little bit more towards sellers, but the momentum has definitely shifted, and it'll be quite interesting to sort of follow along and wait and see. That said, this opportunity here has also presented itself for a number of buyers. So people that are either still holding pre-approvals at yesterday's interest rates today. Those are people that are certainly ahead of the market, and or people that are buying things on the long term. I think that it's a tremendous time to be buying a long term, forever home, so to speak. Um, it's difficult to have found a time in recent years where someone felt like they were getting a deal. Everyone seemingly was stretching, but the truth is, right now, I think that there's a bit of an opportunity here. So we're going to continue to watch it, and I think everything is a case by case, and I'm very excited by the messages that I've been getting. People that are excited by this and exhilarated and really looking to try and capitalize on what's happening with the market. And for certain that people that are jumping into it, I think are not regretting it and are quite happy right now. So we'll continue to watch, and I look forward to giving you an update next month. Thank you so much for turning into the list.